Hey, welcome to this edition of Tuesday Talks with Twyla. So today I want to talk about something that might ruffle your feathers a little bit. So, do you ever feel like somebody else's behavior causes you to feel a certain way? Your kids don't listen, or they say something that makes you feel bad, or your spouse or your partner does something that makes you feel annoyed, or makes you upset, or makes you feel like your feelings are hurt. I want to challenge you in these moments to really look at what's happening. So when we understand what actually causes our feelings, which is a thought that we're having, so our bodies are designed so that when we have a thought, our body matches it with an emotion. So it's automatic, happens without us even realizing it. And this is the trick, right? It happens all by itself. So when we think that somebody else's behavior is causing our feelings, so our husband hurt our feelings, or our kids make us feel worthless, or like a bad parent, or like a bad mom, what's actually happening is their behavior is causing a thought, and that thought is causing that feeling. And it's pretty sneaky, right? It can happen so swiftly that we don't even realize that that is actually what's happening. And so we give the credit or the blame to the other person. And we also give away all of our power. Because they can't change our thoughts. Only we can do that. And they are a choice. They might be automatic. They might be something that we are so used to thinking that they just come up without us realizing it. But they are a choice. And what happens is we get in these routines, we get in these patterns where we think these certain things, we think a certain way. And when something happens, our go-to thought, our default thinking just happens without us realizing it. We don't have to think about it, right? It just happens. And then we feel a certain way. So every time our kids do this, this is how we feel. But there's a thought there in between, and we've got to find that. Because when we give all of our blame or credit for our feelings to someone else, we lose all of our power. We are giving away our ability to make ourselves feel better. They don't have that ability. Only we do. So when our kids do something that we don't want them to do, or they won't do what we want them to do, put their clothes away, fold their clothes, pick their clothes up off the floor, put their clothes in the hamper, whatever that is, we have a thought about it. And we're so used to thinking it. They should just put their clothes in the clothes hamper. They should. Maybe they should. But if they don't every single day, and we are just making ourselves miserable because they won't put their clothes in the hamper, wouldn't it be better use of our energy to decide what that thought is and decide if that's how we want to think so that we can decide how we want to feel? So a great example of this, every single day, bar none, sometimes twice a day, when my son showers, he leaves his underwear on the floor in the bathroom, and he leaves the shower curtain open. Every day. And every morning on my way out of the house, I walk into the bathroom, close the curtain, grab the underwear, drop it in his hamper. Every day. Because if I don't, I will look at that underwear when I get home from work, when I get home at noon. I will see it every time I walk through the basement. The bathroom door faces where you come in. So it's the first thing that you see. And I don't want, especially if someone's coming over to my house, I don't want that to be the first thing they see when they walk in. Our front door comes into the basement. You can see into the bathroom. I don't want them to see that. Not that they're going to notice the underwear on the floor. That's not that big of a deal, but I don't want the shower curtain open. I want it closed. My son could care less, right? The other reason for closing the curtain is the mold on the bottom. He still could care less. He does not care if the curtain's open, if the curtain's moldy. He doesn't care. And he probably never will. But I do. So instead of nagging him every day, sometimes if he's home when I do it, I'll be like, please close the curtain every day, please. And I just make light of it. Because in all the years, he's not, actually yesterday or the day before I went down and the curtain was closed and I thought, this is odd. Maybe he didn't shower today. Maybe he showered and closed the curtain, I don't know. So every day when he goes in to shower, the curtain is closed. Every day when he comes home at noon from school, when he comes home from school, comes home at noon, whenever he comes home, that curtain is closed. When he leaves, it's open. But every day when he comes home, it's closed. And that's the way I want it. And I'm okay exerting the tiniest amount of energy to close the curtain and pick up the underwear. Instead of ruminating and fuming, why is he so disrespectful to me? Why doesn't he care about what I care about? Why isn't this important to him? Are you kidding me? He's 17. He could care less if the curtain's open and the underwear on the floor, obviously, because he's done it every day since we've lived in this house. So why would I keep fighting that battle? It's only important to me. So I spend way less energy closing the curtain, picking up the underwear, and walking out the door than I would if I ruminated and fumed about the fact that he won't do this one simple thing, right? So when we imagine that what someone else does is causing our pain, our discomfort, our anger, our hurt feelings, whatever it is, we have to stop and get curious because there's something happening in between. And that sneaky thought is what we've got to get a hold of. Because if we can change that thought, we can change how we feel. Because remember, that's how our bodies are designed. It's automatic. We can't have a thought and a feeling that doesn't match. It's not how our bodies are designed. It's not like it's Russian roulette and you have a thought and it's like, oh, what are we going to feel about that today? That's not how it works. Can you imagine how volatile every human on the planet would be if that's how our bodies worked? It'd be mass chaos. It's automatic. It has to match the feeling with the thought. And there are some thoughts that you might have that you think are positive or you think are neutral, but that's not how it shows up in your body. So be aware of that. Understand how that works, how that thought feeling match is for you, because we're all unique. So where our body has to make it match, you also might make it mean something different. So when you have two people side by side, it can be totally different experience, right? Because just because we have the same thought doesn't mean that it creates the exact same feeling. It's what does that thought mean to you? So the next time you feel like someone outside of you is causing your feelings, get curious. Ask yourself, what am I thinking about this? Is that thought serving me? Do I want to feel like this in this moment? Right? It can be the simplest things, but when we pay attention to this, it opens up everything. And sometimes it might not happen in the moment. So give yourself some compassion here, give yourself some grace. It might be the next day, it might be later that day where you're like, gosh, that really tipped me over. Or like, my husband really made me feel bad. Oh, wait a minute. He doesn't make me feel bad. I feel bad. Why do I feel bad? Because I'm thinking, so he did this, I was thinking this, and that made me feel bad. Well, maybe he didn't mean it that way, right? I mean, there are times where people around us will say something and we take it to mean something totally different than what they meant. And you've probably had this happen to you before, where you've said something and you either just say something like in passing, or you say something flippant, like it's just like this thought that kind of pours out of you. It's like doesn't even mean anything. You don't give it any more thought than that. And someone around you takes it totally different and gets tipped over or gets upset. And you're like, whoa, what just happened here? They took it in a different way. They took it to mean something different. They assigned a different meaning than what you meant, or maybe they even misunderstood the words that you used, or the complete meaning of what you said, or didn't hear you properly. Maybe they thought you said this word when you actually said this word. There's a ton of scenarios, right? So we have to just get a hold of this, understand what's happening, get curious about it, and then decide, do we want to feel this way? And if we do, it's okay if we do, right? If we want to think this thing when this thing happens, we always have that choice. We're not here to just flip thoughts or thought hop or completely abandon the way you actually normally think. But we want to empower you to know that you have the ability to make this change. That you have the ability to make this change. And if you want to keep the thought and the feeling combination, you just want to love your reasons. You want to be okay with it. And that's totally fine. You just want to love your reasons. You want to make sure that if this is what you're going to think and how you're going to feel, that you love your reasons. Like, yes, when this happens, I want to feel this certain way. And I'm good with that. Okay. Just know that you always have this power. You always have this ability. And it's not them causing it. It's not something outside of you causing it. It's the thought that you're having. Always. Our bodies are designed that when you have a thought, it matches it with a feeling. So understand what your thought-feeling combinations are. What comes up for you automatically? What meaning do you give to certain thoughts? It's all available to you. And you might struggle to find it. There might be things that happen so seamless, or that you are just so patterned or routined at thinking that you don't realize that there's a thought in there, right? And some of it might go back to the episode where we talked about the story that you're telling yourself. So if it's something about your children and you're feeling like a bad parent, how often are you telling yourself that you're a bad parent? How often is that story running on repeat in the back of your mind? That white noise. Noticing those things that might go along with this stuff, that's going to reinforce that meaning that you're giving to some of those thoughts. So we want to find those as well. And that's why you might have to dig a little deeper. Be like, why is that what I was thinking? Oh, is that what's on repeat? Is that what just comes up automatically? Is that what I'm thinking all day, every day? Is that the story I'm telling myself? And then, is it the story I want to tell myself? Do I want to tell myself a better story? A more neutral story? A more comfortable story? A more soothing or loving story? So that I can feel good about myself, so I can feel happy in life? Whatever it is, it's all an option. It's all available to you. But always the first step is finding the thought, building the awareness, figuring out what's going on. That's always where we have to start. And it can be something sneaky. It can be challenging to discover these things. But you can do it. And just understanding that all of it is within us. It's our ability and power to change these things and to create the life that we want every day. If you have any questions, let me know. Happy Tuesday. See you next week.